Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking specifically about Open Quest. All right, so this is my review for Open Quest Basic Edition. It's the PDF edition of Open Quest. So what is Open Quest? So one, it was created by Newport. It came out last year, and it is, and what it really is it is a D100 Dungeons and Dragons. That's pretty much exactly what it is. So I read through there's a basic edition that is made available. It is really, really good as far as a free game, all right? So it's 125 pages long, and it's not a quick start. It's everything in the game. I think the premium version has a few added extras in it, but this is a fully playable, fully functional game. It has everything you need to run multiple campaigns, right? So it's not a quick start. It's actually a fully functioning tabletop role-playing game that you could download for nothing today, right? And so that's pretty awesome. I never ever discount free games because they're so important to our community and our hobby. And I really have a lot of respect for Newport making this game free. That is really, really an incredible choice. I'm always impressed when I see it from any specific creator. So you can grab this today, and I highly recommend you download it, if not just to see how he structured the game, right? But I do want to talk a little bit about it. So the game really is, there's not much to talk about here because it is Dungeons and Dragons on a D100 system, and it's almost all skills based, right? So those rules really change how the game focuses. There's really not much of a setting here. There's really no new game mechanics here. It's just let's play Dungeons and Dragons with the D100, with a D100, right? And you use two 10-siders, one colored so that it's the tens digit and the other colored. So all you need to play this game is just two 10-siders, and you go. That's everything you need to move forward and play your game, right? It's incredibly skill based, and there's a little bit of innovation in how the skills are grouped. That's pretty much it, but that's it. It's the same races you would find in the it is based off the OGL, and it's just a bog standard Dungeons and Dragons clone with the D100 attached onto it, right? So one, I love this game because it's free, right? And honestly, I feel fundamentally this game doesn't have much, it doesn't have much ambition, right? Because I really feel like all they're doing here is changing the rules. But the reality is when you create a fully functional, free tabletop role-playing game that you're giving to the world, it just creates so many options, and I just think that's a wonderful thing, and I'm always impressed with that, right? But this is a D100 Dungeons & Dragons, right? But I also really, really, really liked reading through this game. By the way, it's 125 pages long, and one of the reasons why is it really made me think, why do tabletop role-playing game creators, why do they create tabletop role-playing games, right? And I think there are 4 reasons that tabletop role-playing game creators create role-playing games. Now, I think there's a good number of tabletop role-playing game creators who are not aware of these 4, right? And they're oblivious to their own reasons when they're creating a tabletop role-playing game, right? There's a few people. Some tabletop role-playing game creators, I think, are hyper aware of this, right? That there are distinct reasons to build a tabletop role-playing game. But I think the major ones, the important ones, break down into 4 categories, okay? So why do tabletop role-playing game creators create tabletop role-playing games? By the way, me and every other person on the planet that talks about TRPGs is designing a tabletop role-playing game. I'm working hard. I'll get it out there soon. All right, but what are the 4 reasons, right? The first is to change yourself, okay? Now, when I think about this one, I'm specifically thinking about a tabletop role-playing game that you guys have never seen, right? So I was involved in a very robust 5th edition campaign, and we had players that would come in and out of that campaign, and one of the games, the game master for this ran for 4 to 6 hours at a clip for this campaign. And it was funny because one of the players was like, "Hey, I got this tabletop role-playing game I've been writing. I really need help with the rules. can we, I want everybody to show up early and I'll run it for a couple hours before your game. And the game master was like, no, right? And the reason why was this person had been invited in the game. They were a marginal player. They were, and honestly, this game was at the was a very high level game, right? I'd probably do a whole video on this, but there are power dynamics when you bring together a tabletop role playing game, right? Sometimes you're there as a favor to you, and sometimes you're there because the game master really wants you there, and you make that game better. Well, this person was not that. This person did not make the game better. They were just filling a seat, right? And the game master said, no, you can't run, we're not going to run a 2-3 hour session before my session, to play test your rules. And the reason why is we're going to run 4 to 6 hours tonight. Everybody's going to be tired. Not everybody can give that much time to the game, right? And I'm not going to let you just, they didn't say this directly, but they were essentially saying, I'm not going to let you just bolt your thing onto mine, right? So this person got all fussy and actually left the game a couple weeks later, right? But the reality is, I really think that person was creating that tabletop role-playing game creator. One, I think there's a really good chance that game's never going to get finished. He had been working on it for 4 years, and it was like half done, right? And now I hope I'm wrong, and that the person but I think that person was creating that tabletop role-playing game to change themselves, to become a creator, right? And that's interesting, right? And I think we should acknowledge that that's not a bad thing. It's some people, that's why they're creating it. Sometimes when somebody's creating a tabletop role-playing game, they're doing that to change themselves, right? Well, what else do tabletop role-playing games creators, why do they create? Well, I think it's 4 things. Tabletop role-playing game creators create tabletop role-playing games to change themselves, to change the rules, to change the community, to change the world, okay? So I want to sweep through them. So I already talked about to change yourself, an example of that. Many of the games that are created to change themselves never even make it to the market, right? But they're out there, right? And they also, so just be aware of that, okay? To change the rules. Open Quest was created to change the rules, and I think nothing else, right? One, the person who wrote it, Newport, this thing is extremely well, actually, the layout is good, and the art is okay, and it's well written, and it's crafted. Like, this Newport didn't need to change himself creating this game. I think he really wanted to change the rules of Dungeons & Dragons. I think if you read Open Quest, this guy loves Dungeons & Dragons, but also loves the D100 system, and really wants to play Dungeons & Dragons with the D100 system, right? Now, I will say, that's really not enough for me to run a game on. Like, I'm just not that big a fan of the D100 system, and I don't think that, that changing that one thing really makes me want to branch away from traditional Dungeons & Dragons, which has awesome art and awesome layout and all these other things. So I think overall, Open Quest is going up, it's kind of really running up a hill. It's doing a lot of hard work there, right? All right, so Open Quest was written to change the rules, okay? Now, what is a game that was built to change the community? Well, I can think of one, and that is Fate Accelerated, okay? So Fate Accelerated is a 50-page free tabletop role-playing game created by Fred Hicks of Evil Hat Games, and Fate is just a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful system that allows you, and Fate Accelerated is incredible. It's a 50-page rule book that costs $0 that you can read on Monday and be telling any story you want, anything. You could use it for Star Trek, Star Wars. You can use it for your own custom world. You can run a Mary Poppins tabletop role-playing game with Fate Accelerated. You can read it on Monday, and you can have 4 players at your table on Friday, on Friday night, and everybody's going to have a good time. It is an amazing game, and the fact that it allowed players and game masters to tell stories for free, quickly, right, and powerfully, changed the community because it made the community broader. It invited people in who really wanted to tell stories different than what Dungeons & Dragons could tell, right? And I will tell you right now, if you think Dungeons & Dragons can be used to run anything, you're 100% wrong. Like, that is just a very constricted, it's just not a good system for a lot of types of games, right? So Fate, because of its efficiency, because of its price point, because of its quality, really changed the community. It branched the community out. It added members to the community. It excited, it created new games, right? It really changed the community. All right. So let's talk about a game that changes the future, right? Well, the original game that changed the future, but this isn't my example, is Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons changed the future. It changed what music we would hear. It changed what we would see in movies. It changed video games. It changed the future. It had changes that exploded beyond the boundaries of the tabletop role-playing game genre, beyond the hobby. Well, what's another game that's changing the future, right? I believe that is Blades in the Dark. Blades in the Dark is so well crafted by John Harper, is so well crafted that the first thing right now that it's doing is so I see this really important link. 5th edition, Mike Merles. Kate Welch, she's being trained, in my opinion, to be the lead designer on 6th edition. Kate Welch is in direct connection, has dinner with, is connected highly to John Harper. I think John Harper is the most innovative tabletop role-playing game designer on the planet, past, present, or future, excluding Gary Gygax, right? And I think his game is changing what 6th edition is going to be right now, because I think the building of 6th edition has started. Even if they're not calling it 6th edition, I think Mike Merles was thinking about 6th edition when he hired Kate Welch, right? And Kate Welch was thinking about 6th edition when she had dinner with John Harper. And anything that touches Dungeons & Dragons, that changes the future of the world, because Dungeons & Dragons is radiating change into our world all the time. You know, right now it's changing streaming, it's changing technology, it's changing how we access text. But I think there's much bigger changes coming. And I really believe that Blades in the Dark is the very best tabletop role-playing game rule set there is. You know, right now, it's just incredible. It is really, and it is a game that was written to change the future, So I really am super glad that Newport created Open Quest, this D100 Dungeons & Dragons. I'm sorry if I was kind of a little dismissive of it. I think the game should have more ambition overall, but I love that he made it for free, and that is super respectful and super kind. And I highly recommend you go and download Open Quest Basic Edition. And it really made me think about why tabletop role-playing game creators create tabletop role-playing games. And I think the reason that we create tabletop role-playing games is we want to change ourselves, we want to change the rules, we want to change the community, and some of us, just a few of us, want to change the future. Take care.